Something exploded, but it wasn't just any explosion. It was a carefully planned test flight, Flight 9 of SpaceX's mighty Starship, and it ended in a fireball that's now making headlines around the globe. Debris from Booster 14 has washed up on the shores of Mexico, hinting at what really went wrong just seconds before landing. And in a twist that nobody saw coming, Jared Isaacman, once considered a top pick for NASA's highest position, has just had his nomination withdrawn. What does all this mean for SpaceX's next launch? Buckle up. This is going to be a wild ride. Welcome back to Great SpaceX. Flight 9 will forever be remembered as one of the most intense and dramatic Starship missions yet. While it showcased some brilliant engineering feats and boundary-pushing maneuvers, it also ended with a fiery explosion that left everyone asking one question: what exactly happened? As more details emerge, the mystery surrounding the mission's final moments is finally beginning to unravel. And now new pieces of debris recovered from the ocean, including critical pressure tanks, are telling a deeper story, one that could shape the timeline for SpaceX's next major launch. Among all the key moments during Flight 9, one of the most talked about was the fate of Booster 14 or B-14. This powerful Super Heavy booster was tasked with performing several new high-risk tests. Everything appeared to be going smoothly, until just moments before splashdown. During what should have been a routine landing burn, all communication with B-14 was suddenly lost. It was as if the booster simply vanished in midair. No live data. No camera feeds. Just radio silence. And for days that was all we had to go on. But now things are changing. Recently, photos began circulating online showing large fragments of B-14's wreckage washing up along the Mexican coast. Among the debris were several intact composite overwrapped pressure vessels, also known as COPs. These tanks, which store high-pressure gases used to power engine systems, are essential to any Starship flight. And in this case, up to 9 of them were spotted in a single photo, all clearly marked "Made in the USA" and branded with the name Luxfer, a longtime SpaceX supplier. That detail alone confirms their authenticity and ties them directly to Flight 9. But the cops weren't alone. Images revealed a variety of wreckage, pipes, panels, twisted metal, scattered across beaches, all showing signs of explosive separation. Some parts were blackened, others scorched, while a few appeared surprisingly intact. These visuals tell us that the explosion wasn't a complete catastrophic failure. It was strong enough to rip the booster apart but not powerful enough to obliterate all its components. The presence of largely undamaged pressure vessels strongly supports this theory. But how did it happen? Initial analysis by SpaceX engineers suggests that B-14 re-entered Earth's atmosphere at a higher than usual angle of attack. That maneuver was intentional, part of a planned stress test to see how much the structure could endure. But with great ambition comes great risk. This steeper re-entry likely exposed the booster's aft section, home to the engines and plumbing, to significantly higher aerodynamic forces. Combined with the heat and pressure of re-entry, that might have weakened or cracked something critical in the engine bay. Then came the landing burn. Or rather, the attempted landing burn. As the booster neared the surface, it lit up 2 of its massive Raptor engines in preparation for a controlled descent. But something clearly went wrong. SpaceX has hinted that one of the engines may have failed to ignite properly, possibly due to fuel leakage. If true, that leaked methane or liquid oxygen could have ignited during descent, triggering the explosion that tore the booster apart. While this theory remains unconfirmed pending a full post-flight report, it matches the timing of the signal loss and the pattern of the wreckage. Now you might be wondering, will this cause delays for future launches? It's a fair question, and the answer might surprise you. According to the Federal Aviation Administration (FAA), the issues that caused B-14's explosion fall under previously approved exemptions. These include things like grid fin failures, landing engine issues, and hard splashdowns. In other words, SpaceX anticipated these types of failures as part of the experimental test campaign. So, no further investigation is required, and the program can keep moving forward without major regulatory delays. However, that doesn't mean SpaceX is off the hook entirely. Environmental safety is still a top priority, especially when debris ends up washing ashore in other countries. With materials now showing up along the Mexican coast, SpaceX must work with local authorities to recover the wreckage and assess any potential environmental impact. That includes everything from ensuring no hazardous materials were released into the ecosystem to securing all foreign-sourced components. These recovery efforts are critical for maintaining international cooperation and keeping launch operations running smoothly. Despite all this, there's still a strong sense of optimism. With the FAA confirming that only the Starship upper stage is under investigation, and not the booster, the road to the next launch remains largely clear. In fact, Flight 10 may lift off sooner than most expected. Sources close to the development timeline suggest that a late June window is still in play. And there's good reason to believe that timeline can hold. Both Ship 36 and Booster 16, the next flight hardware pair, have already completed their cryogenic tests. That's a key milestone in preparing for launch. Even better, engine installation is now underway on both stages. Once that process is complete, static fire tests will follow. These are among the final steps before a launch readiness review is conducted. If everything stays on track, there's no reason Flight 10 can't soar skyward before the end of June. And if you're wondering about my personal prediction, I'm calling it now, June 22nd. But I want to hear from you too. Drop a comment below. Yes or no, will Flight 10 lift off in June? And if yes, what's your guess for the date? And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Great SpaceX. We'll keep you in the loop on every new development as the Starship program evolves, from engine tests to orbital launches and everything in between. You won't want to miss it. Now, let's go back to Booster 14 for a moment, because even though it ended in an explosion, it wasn't a failure. Not even close. In fact, it was one of the most important test flights SpaceX has ever conducted. Why? Because it proved that new, more aggressive maneuvers can work, even in extreme conditions. Unlike earlier super heavy boosters, B-14 wasn't meant to be recovered. That gave SpaceX the freedom to try new things without worrying about preserving the hardware. One of the primary goals was to test a higher angle of attack during re-entry. That means coming in steeper, which puts more stress on the heat shield and structural components. It's a risky move, but it could pay off in future missions by offering more precise control over the booster's trajectory. And despite the explosion, this part of the test actually worked as intended. Another major objective was to trial a 2-engine landing burn instead of the more traditional 3-engine setup. This approach would reduce fuel usage and allow for a gentler touchdown. However, as we now know, the landing sequence didn't go as planned. One engine may have failed and the explosion cut the test short. Still, valuable data was collected, and the partial success will help engineers refine future systems. Most importantly, the third and most visually stunning part of the test did succeed, and that's the active flip maneuver during hot staging. Hot staging is when the upper stage of the rocket ignites while still attached to the booster. It's a complex and dangerous transition, requiring precise timing and coordination. During Flight 9, B-14 was tasked with executing an active flip during this process. And it nailed it. Later, SpaceX released never-before-seen footage showing this maneuver in incredible detail, including a camera angle from inside the booster's engine compartment. That's one of the harshest environments you can imagine. Extreme heat, vibration, pressure, and flame. Capturing video from inside that chaos? A major engineering and communications triumph. It's rare that we get to see footage this raw, this close to the action. The fact that SpaceX not only pulled off the maneuver but also recorded it from inside the booster shows just how far the program has come. These visuals are more than just cool shots. They provide vital information for engineers, giving them new insights into how the structure behaves during high-stress events. And it's moments like this that remind us why test flights matter, even when they end in fire and smoke. One of the most fascinating enhancements in this recent launch came from the additional cameras that were installed on the forward sections of both the Super Heavy booster and the Starship itself. These cameras weren't just there for public viewing pleasure. They served a dual purpose. On one hand, they gave the world a stunning front-row seat to the fiery dance of separation and ascent. On the other hand, they provided SpaceX engineers with high-resolution footage crucial for analyzing flight dynamics in ways never possible before. Every angle captured added more clarity to how these massive vehicles behave under real flight conditions. A particularly dramatic moment captured by these cameras was the active flip maneuver, which followed the hot staging phase. During this sequence, the 3 center sea-level Raptor engines ignited with controlled ferocity, helping to separate the booster from the Starship above. What made this moment so technically rich was the way these engines gimbaled, tilting in different directions to create torque. From the footage, you can actually see the flames shift angles briefly before returning to their default center position. This intentional imbalance generated rotational force, causing the booster to begin flipping while the Starship continued climbing into orbit. Now, here's something really important to understand. The vacuum Raptors mounted on the Starship weren't producing full thrust at the time of separation. That meant the burden of executing the flip fell entirely on those sea-level Raptors at the base of the booster. But it wasn't just about engine power. The engineering trickery didn't stop there. SpaceX made a quiet but impactful design change to the hot staging ring. On one side of the ring they completely sealed off the vent holes. So when the booster engines fired, the sealed side held in more pressure, creating a directional push that helped guide the booster into its flip with incredible control. This seemingly small modification had major implications. In past flights, the booster would often tumble randomly after separation, requiring SpaceX to use additional fuel just to get it back into the right orientation for a safe descent. That fuel expenditure reduced overall mission efficiency and payload capacity. But now, with this controlled flip method, SpaceX can save propellant that would have otherwise been used correcting random orientations. It's a change that doesn't just improve reusability, it potentially increases how much weight each launch can carry to orbit. This improvement may seem subtle, but it represents a major step toward refining Starship into a dependable workhorse. SpaceX didn't leave us in the dark about this breakthrough either. They officially confirmed it on X, saying, after stage separation, Super Heavy flipped in a controlled direction for the first time. This maneuver requires less propellant to be held in reserve and enables additional payload mass to orbit. That's a powerful statement. It means that not only is Starship getting closer to its promised performance levels, but each test flight is actively removing inefficiencies from the system. And as those inefficiencies are removed, the rocket becomes more capable, more reliable, and more aligned with SpaceX's long-term goals. But this success also raises an important question. How will SpaceX continue evolving this system? During a recent event at Starbase, the company unveiled an updated hot staging design that resembles the Soviet-era N-1 rocket. This new version of the staging ring includes a significantly larger central vent, which allows exhaust gases to escape more freely during stage separation. While that might reduce the risk of damage from hot staging, it could also make it more difficult to build up the asymmetrical pressure needed for a controlled flip. So, with this change, how exactly will SpaceX maintain the directional control they've just perfected? There are two main strategies SpaceX might pursue. The first option is to keep using the proven method, blocking off one side of the ring. This would maintain the pressure differential needed to trigger a controlled flip. It's already worked in flight and provides a straightforward, predictable outcome. The second, more advanced option involves adjusting engine thrust asymmetrically, essentially using precise control of each engine's power level to spin the booster into position. While this method offers flexibility, it also increases complexity. That's because asymmetric thrust could introduce small changes to Starship's own trajectory, potentially requiring additional corrections. For now, it seems the first approach, physically sealing off part of the staging ring, is the safer, more manageable path. It's less risky and has already delivered a successful result. Whichever path SpaceX takes, the key takeaway is that they are continuously iterating, learning, and improving with every single flight. And that's exactly what makes their engineering model so powerful. Even flights that don't land perfectly can still yield massive amounts of data. Booster May 14 not have achieved a soft landing, but it gave SpaceX engineers invaluable insights, especially into systems that had never been tested under real launch conditions before. This relentless push to improve is what keeps SpaceX ahead of the game. And if you're excited to see what they'll come up with next, drop a "keep going" in the comments down below. Your support helps fuel this journey, not just through space but through engineering innovation at a scale we rarely get to witness. We are inching closer to the future of spaceflight with every test, every risk, and every lesson learned. These flights are laying the groundwork for reusable rockets, interplanetary travel, and eventually human colonization of other worlds. All of it starts here with flights just like Booster 14. Now, switching gears, let's talk about a political development that's caught the attention of the entire space community: the sudden withdrawal of Jared Isaacman's nomination to become the next NASA administrator. For months, the assumption was that Isaacman, billionaire tech entrepreneur and seasoned private astronaut, would be the next leader of the space agency under a second Trump administration. Having led both the Inspiration 4 and Polaris Dawn missions, he brought a rare blend of executive experience and real hands-on spaceflight. But on May 31st, a surprise announcement changed everything. According to a report by Semaphore, President Donald Trump officially withdrew Jared Isaacman's nomination. Not long after, the White House confirmed this shift in direction with a public statement. President Trump also addressed the decision directly on his social media platform, Truth Social, writing, "After a thorough review of prior associations, I am hereby withdrawing the nomination of Jared Isaacman to head NASA. I will soon announce a new nominee who will be mission-aligned and put America first in space." This announcement marked a sharp turn and introduced a new layer of uncertainty into NASA's future leadership. The White House also released a more detailed statement emphasizing alignment with the president's core agenda. A spokesperson made it clear that the new NASA administrator must fully support the president's space vision. One of the standout themes mentioned was a renewed focus on Mars exploration. According to the statement, the administrator would play a key role in leading America back to Mars and ensuring that the U.S. planted its flag on the red planet. That directive aligns with Trump's previous comments about pushing for a bold, Mars-first strategy, even if it means scaling back other projects like lunar missions or deep space science. This may be where Jared Isaacman's vision began to diverge from the administration's. While he has expressed enthusiasm for Mars exploration, Isaacman has also supported maintaining a balanced approach, investing in both Moon and Mars missions while also preserving budgets for scientific research. His moderate views may not have matched Trump's more aggressive push for Martian milestones. Reports have also surfaced that Isaacman voiced concern over proposed budget cuts to NASA. In public interviews, he stated that these cuts were not an optimal outcome, and stressed the importance of maintaining strong investment in space science and infrastructure. That sentiment may not have sat well with certain voices in the administration. Another potential reason behind the withdrawal involves political optics. Some analysts have pointed to Isaacman's past political donations, including contributions to the Democratic Party during the 2022 election cycle. While this angle remains speculative, political loyalty often plays a role in high-profile appointments. If decision-makers viewed Isaacman's affiliations as inconsistent with current priorities, it may have sealed the decision to pull his nomination. At the end of the day, leadership at NASA is as much about political alignment as it is about technical experience and vision. Despite the surprise, Isaacman responded with professionalism and grace. On X, he posted a message expressing continued support for America's space ambitions and appreciation for the administration's direction. He didn't criticize the decision. He simply wished the agency and its future leadership the best. Elon Musk also chimed in, calling Isaacman rare, a person both competent and good-hearted. That's no small compliment coming from Musk. Indeed, many within the spaceflight community viewed Isaacman as a highly qualified candidate. He's not just a business leader, he's one of the few civilians with real orbital flight experience aboard a SpaceX Dragon capsule. His removal now raises bigger questions about NASA's current status. For almost 6 months, the agency has been operating without a permanent administrator. While programs continue and teams work hard behind the scenes, having a strong, stable leader at the top is essential, especially during such a critical moment in NASA's history. Between the Artemis program, Mars planning, and international partnerships, there's a lot at stake. A misstep now could mean delays or lost momentum. The next appointment will signal not just the agency's priorities, but America's direction in space for the next decade or more. So what do you think of this surprising shakeup? Setting politics aside, do you believe Jared Isaacman deserved a spot at the top of NASA? Would he have been the right leader to guide us toward Mars and beyond? Or was this decision a necessary course correction? Let's continue the discussion in the comments down below. Your voice matters, especially when we're talking about the future of space exploration. That's all for today's video. This has been Kevin with Great SpaceX. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay updated on all the latest developments from Starbase and beyond, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And remember, curiosity, imagination, and exploration will always find you as long as you keep looking up.